the ground incursion into Gaza City is really ramping up. Since dawn, Dropsite Daily, I saw it was reporting that 62 Palestinians, at least 62 Palestinians have been killed, as well as many, many more wounded. What do we know about, how many people are still in Gaza City, and what's going on there? Because it feels from the coverage like this is a new level of horror being visited on Gaza City.
I mean, it is, and it's being openly bragged about by the Israeli minister, by the Israeli military. The defense minister today posted, "Gaza is burning," and this came as the military spokesperson announced that ground troops are escalating the assault on Gaza City as part of this, major offensive that they announced last month, to take control of the area and to ethnically cleanse it. The spokesperson said that there's 3 divisions have initiated this large-scale ground operation right now. They bragged about how in the past week alone, 850 targets have been hit in Gaza City. So that is the equivalent of something like 120 strikes a day for the course of a week. And last week we saw them announce this campaign to target high-rise buildings and residential towers in Gaza City, claiming that they're used by Hamas as observation posts and putting out ridiculous graphics showing a surveillance camera on the top of a building, and then, supposedly Hamas operations inside these buildings. It very much reminded me of when back in 2023, in the run-up to the invasion and attack on Shifa Hospital, they showed, supposedly the command center under Shifa, which of course turned out to be a big lie. But they've targeted just really wiping out residential buildings, high-rise towers, schools, tent encampments where people are around these buildings, malnutrition treatment facilities. And they've destroyed so many iconic multi-story buildings in Gaza City. And this appears to be not just about military tactics. This is erasure. This is the deliberate vanishing and destruction of Palestinian history, Palestinian society. And we saw it in places like Beit Hanun and Rafah, which are completely razed and completely unrecognizable. But it appears to be that this is what the plan is for Gaza City too, which is a much, much bigger urban area. But already the Israeli military has moved in from the north and east of Gaza City, forcibly displacing tens of thousands of Palestinians to the western part of the city. Many are now on the beach and on the coastline. It's just a sea of tents. And many people, as many as the UN estimates over 200,000, have fled to the south. Many can't even flee to the south, even if they wanted to, because it's just too expensive. Our reporting shows it can cost up to 4,000 shekels, which is like $1,200. If you want a car or anything to carry your things to the south, that's completely unaffordable to people in Gaza. Apparently, when people have gotten there, they're being charged to rent tiny plots of land on which to pitch a tent that they can't even afford. So even people who want to leave, as the Israeli military moves in, they find that they can't. And
on that point, I've seen that reports that there are increasing number of people not even living in tents.
Yeah, the tents are unaffordable. I forgot now how much a tent runs for. I think it's something like $800. There's no tents coming in because there's a complete siege. One of the reporters that contributed for us for a long time, Rasha Boujalel, had to leave her place and move west. She's right near the sea now on a street in a tent with her husband and 5 children. She showed pictures just like a week apart. She put the tent on the rubble of their former family home. She was staying at a friend's house before. And then within a week, that area was surrounded by tents. And Israel is trying to force all of these people out. And in these targeting of towers, it's really just horrendous footage. Abdul Qadir Sabbah, who's kind of the primary journalist reporting for Dropsite from Gaza City right now, has been covering a lot of this. And on Sunday, he filmed outside the Al Mehna building in Tel Al Hawa, which is a neighborhood in in southern Gaza City. And Israel basically announced it was going to strike within minutes. And there are just scenes of utter panic and mayhem. There's families hurling out mattresses and any belongings outside the windows of this tower. People are scrambling outside. These things are almost hitting people. You see women screaming. You see this young man collapse to the ground and say, I can't, I swear I can't, at the idea of being displaced again. And then minutes later, this massive airstrike hits the building. Abdul Qadir told me a couple of weeks ago that I took the quote. He said, the thing that can hurt you the most psychologically and physically, the thing that destroys your psyche is displacement. And this is what's happening. All of these people have been displaced multiple times. They're being displaced again. They're being ethnically cleansed. They're being driven out of their homes. And all of this is happening, which was a big story before, but because of this military assault right now, we're not talking about as much, during a widening famine. There are people every day starving. The situation is getting worse. It was officially declared a famine by the world's leading expert on food crises just last month. People in Gaza have been saying it's a famine for longer than that. And it's expected to spread to Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah, the very places that Israel is ordering people to displace to. And I'll just finally say that once Israel announced the launch of this offensive against Gaza City, they started issuing multiple displacement orders for different neighborhoods in Gaza City. And this culminated in a displacement order last week for the entire north. And if you look, it was accompanied by a map which showed 3 arrows pointing from the east to the west, and then a massive arrow pointing down. And this is the manifestation of colonial fantasy for them to just clear Palestine of Palestinians. And it's happening right before our eyes. And all the world seems to be able to do is issue words of condemnation. And Israel never pays a price for it and continues. And it's continuing before our eyes. And it seems to be this end game. Abdul Qadir just sent me some video right before we started that I'm sure is going to be of some horror. And so, yeah, this is happening as we speak.
Also, Jeremy, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan. I was just going to add one point to what Sharif is saying. This morning I was looking at video out of the western part of Nuseirat, where a lot of people are being forced, and Al Mawasi, the sand dunes along the sea. Israel repeatedly bombs Palestinians in the places it tells them will be the safe zones. And this is where we've seen a lot of the direct strikes on tents, the burning alive of children. In fact, last night, as I was going over the footage and the reports that we were receiving from the ground in Gaza, it just seemed like every single person was a child that was being recovered or whose shredded body was being carried. It was just child after child after child, and we're witnessing on an ongoing basis what looked like biblical level exodus, and part of what Israel has done really over the past several months in an acute way is expand the level of horror and criminality beyond what we even imagined a few months ago. Throughout the course of this genocide, Israel has done actions either on the diplomatic level or has started some chicanery involving aid or a side discussion. Oh, we're going to negotiate. Oh, we're going to send. And it always then kind of people follow along like a cat chasing a ball of yarn. And then what they do is that they escalate the crimes against the Palestinians of Gaza, or they expand their war of annihilation and occupation throughout the West Bank or in occupied Jerusalem. And so part of this is not random. This is part of a doctrine. This is actually something that Noam Chomsky talked about decades ago. This notion that you want to show that you don't actually have any limits, and it is a sick, macabre form of deterrence strategy. But at this point, deterrence is not against an armed force. Deterrence is against the existence of a people. Israel is not trying to deter Hamas or Qassam Brigades or Saraya al-Quds or Hezbollah. They're trying to deter any, and it's not just Palestinian. What they're really sending a message is any Muslims or Arabs in this region that are not going to play the game that we want them to play, that are not going to bend the knee, that are not going to subject the Palestinians to third-class existence, if they're even allowed to exist, we have a right to just bomb you and annihilate you. So this isn't deterrence against an armed group or armed groups. This is a deterrence against the existence of an entire people. And we need, it's been almost 2 full years of this. The world needs to wake up to this. This is a total, we've been calling it a war of annihilation from the beginning. Those of us who paid attention understood what was going to happen. Now, other people are waking up to it. But my God, how many children are we going to watch burned alive? How many hundreds of thousands of people are we going to watch forced from their homes? How many high-rise buildings housing hundreds of families are we going to stand by and say, that's okay? How many strongly worded statements are they going to issue before somebody says, you know what, it's time that we actually use what we have to stand up? I remember that scene. There was this man who was interviewed, I believe it was on Al Jazeera, and this was months ago, and he was being asked about the response from Arab countries. And he was saying, you know, their tanks are just sitting there getting rusty. You know, there's an iconic clip of Abu Ubaidah, who Israel claimed to have assassinated, you know, the spokesperson for the Qassam Brigades and one of the most well-known figures from the Palestinian resistance during this Gaza genocide, where he's addressing Arab nations and calling on them to actually respond to what Israel is doing. And he says, you know, God forbid, you know, you use your military might against it. And that kind of went viral, that notion that it's like, God forbid anyone would actually confront the serial killer that's mass murdering the Palestinians. You know, and the Palestinian resistance is not saying to Egypt, why don't you bomb Israel tomorrow? But, you know, I think all Palestinians for decades have recognized no Arab country is going to intervene in any meaningful way to confront Israel. And part of it is because of the hegemonic relationship with the United States. Part of it is because these Arab regimes are more concerned with their own survival than they are with doing the right thing. And part of it has to do with the political relationships they've forged with the United States and its top ally, Israel. And that's a sick scandal. And none of it is secret. It's all out in the open.